Hi there. Welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today's class is all about getting you amped, getting you inspired for the remainder of the week. We're going to wake up the body, get the blood pumping, get the neurons firing. We're going to be working into the whole body, spending most of our time high to the mat in a standing frame. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify if you need to, take a time out in child pose at any time should you need it. You ready to play? Let's hit the mat. We're going to set up for today's class running through a few rounds of Sun Salutation B, Surya Namaskar B. Set yourself up towards the top end of the mat with enough room to step back. Find a comfortable parallel stack of your feet underneath your hips. Stand up nice and tall in your modified mountain, Tadasana. Float your hands to prayer in front of your heart and just take a minute to connect body and breath, giving me nice deep breaths, breathing all the way down into the bottom of your lungs. Starting to feel that beautiful fresh air filling up the lungs. Take a big breath in to prepare, and then on an exhale, sit back into an imaginary chair as you bump the weight into your bum and your heels, floating the hands softly overhead. Then gently fold forward, keeping the knees as bent as you need to give me a little forward fold. Pause here for a breath, maybe bending and extending through the back chain of the legs if you're really tight. And then take a large step back with your right leg and ease your way into a lunge line. At first, just gently rocking the body weight back and forth, starting to open up gently through the groin. Then pause with the weight pushed back into the back heel. Take a moment here. Scooch up the back leg, coming into a narrow pyramid. Both sets of feet facing to the front of the mat, hands connected to the mat, or perhaps just hanging at the waist, maybe hands on both hips. Soften through the knees and step back into a plank line. Chaturanga down, using knees or no knees for support. Bend through the elbows, hugging them in towards your ribs, hovering off the floor. Drag the weight softly forward, coming into an up dog, pushing off the palms and the bridges of your feet, those being the only 2 points of contact on the mat. Then ease your way into a down dog frame. If you're really tight, maybe take a little walk, bending one knee at a time and trying to wake up the back chain of the legs. Ease into your down dog and hold there for a second or two, stretching into the front and the back chain of the body. We're coming into a warrior two on the right. Stop on the right knee, swing it through to the inside of the right leg. If the leg gets stuck, gently curl it forward. Place it on the inside of your right hand. Drop the back leg to 90 and windmill your arms open, coming into a beautiful T-frame, lengthening through both sets of hands and keeping your gaze steady over the front forefinger. Tuck your back toe under, modifying into a modified warrior one and coming low to the floor, dropping down through the pelvis, reaching overhead with the hands to frame your ears. Place both sets of hands on the floor, either side the lead leg, and step back into a plank. Chaturanga down. If you're using the knees, remember to hug the elbows in as you come down, pushing onto the palms and the bridges of your feet, and setting up an up dog. Pause here for a beat, nice and strong through the arms, core contracted. Ease your way into a down dog, walking it out, or holding your stretch if you prefer. Ease your way into your fingertips. Step up one leg at a time or soften through the knees and take a little bunny hop forward to find your original starting position with your hands on the floor and the feet stacking underneath the hips. Ease your way up into chair, Utkatasana, weight back into your bum and your heels, and then float all the way up, hands in prayer in front of your heart. Let's repeat that on side two. Big breath in, weight back into your bum and your heels. So if you look down, your knees are not tracking over the toes. Fold it forward and hold your little Uttanasana stretch, keeping the legs long and lengthened, or maybe electing to bend and extend. Step back on the left into a soft lunge line. Gently playing with that body weight, dragging yourself back and forth till it feels like the groin is sufficiently warmed up to hold the frame, pushing back into the back heel. Then scooch up the back leg, set up a little pyramid frame. Pause here, both sets of feet looking to the front of the mat, stretching the front and the back chain of the legs. Soften through the knees and step back into your plank. Chaturanga down with control, flowing into your up dog. And then morphing into a down dog and pausing here for a nice little stretch. Swing the left leg forward between the hands on the inside of the left hand. Drop the back leg to 90. Windmill your frame open. Reach with both sets of fingertips. Tap the wall in front of you and the wall behind you. Tuck your back toe under. Pivot. Drop lower to the mat as you modify your warrior one, reaching with your fingertips for the ceiling. Drop your hands down to the mat and set up a plank line. Chaturanga down using knees or no knees to morph from an up dog into a down dog. Pause here for a beat, stretch the front and the back chain of your body, and then step up one leg at a time or take a little hop, checking that your feet are stacking underneath your hips. Find your chair line, make sure that the knees are not tracking over your toes, and ease your way back into your modified mountain, hands in prayer in front of your heart. Let's flow into round 2. Take a big breath in, find your chair. Utkatasana. Fold it forward in Uttanasana. Step back on the right, find your lunge line, hold steady or sway if you need to, trying to have both hands firmly planted either side of the lead leg. Scooch up your back leg, find your pyramid. Every time you come to the pyramid, trying to connect more of your hands to the mat and dropping the crown and the nose down as if you were trying to tap nose to knee. Ease your way into a plank line from here. Chaturanga down with control, flowing from an up dog into a down dog. Pause, take a little stretch. We're going to warrior 2 on the right, swing the right leg forward, drop the back leg to 90, windmill your frame open. Keep your body nicely centered as you tap the wall in front of you and the wall behind you. Tuck your back toe under, drop lower to the mat, reach for the sky through your fingertips. Drop both sets of hands either side of the lead leg and step back into a plank. Chaturanga your way down with control, flowing from an up dog into a down dog. Pause, take a little stretch, and then step or hop your way forward, setting up your chair line with your feet stacking underneath your hips. Peel up along the center line, hands to heart center as you lengthen in mountain. Big breath in, sit back in your chair. Fold it forward and hold, trying to drop the crown lower to the floor and really stretch the back chain of the legs. Step back into the lunge line. Hold steady or sway. Scooch up the back leg and set up a pyramid, trying to keep as much of the hands connected to the mat as the legs start warming up. Ease your way back into your lunge line and morph into a plank. Chaturanga down using knees or no knees. Coming down with control to flow into an up dog, nice and strong through the core and the chest. And then morph into a down dog, parking your bum up to the ceiling. Step up with the left leg, set up your warrior 2 line, dropping the back leg and opening up, lengthening through your fingertips, weight coming down nice and evenly through the pelvis. Tuck your back toe under, float the hands overhead, reaching for the sky as you really open up through that back hip flexor. Drop your hands to the mat, set up your plank. Chaturanga down with control to find an up dog and then a down dog. Hop or step forward, sitting up your chair line, hands floating softly overhead, hands to heart center, last round of Surya Namaskar B. Big breath in to prepare, exhale to find your chair. Fold it forward in Uttanasana, pause here, making the crown nice and heavy, weight distribution equal on the balls and the heels of your feet. Step back into a lunge line, open up a little bit more through the groin. Scooch up your back leg, find your pyramid frame, think nose to knee, both sets of feet facing forward. Step back into your lunge, set up a plank line, and ease your way down, hugging those elbows into the center line as you find an up dog and then a down dog. Right leg swings forward to the inside of the right hand, drop the back leg to 90, windmill your frame open, set up your warrior two line. Tuck your back toe under, pivot, face the front of the mat, float your hands overhead, then drop them softly either side the lead leg and step back into a plank. Chaturanga down using knees or no knees, drag your weight forward, setting up an up dog, and then piking your bum softly up to the ceiling as you morph into a down dog. Step, hop, or jump to the front of the mat, feet stacking in parallel underneath your hips as you find your chair. Hands to heart center as you lengthen through the body, stacking shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles. Last round on the left. Take a big breath in, and on the exhale, sit back in your chair. Fold it forward, pausing, trying to connect the palms to the mat and making the crown of the head nice and heavy. Lunge back on the left, opening up as much as you can through the groin, or maybe electing to sway back and forth. Scoot up the back leg, set up your pyramid, try to make the crown nice and heavy to the floor, stretch the front and the back chain of the body. Ease your way from here back into your plank line, nice and steady, chaturanga down with control. Find your up dog line, and then bleed seamlessly into your down dog as a counterbalance. Step up on the left, opening up the back leg to 90, windmilling your arms open, palms looking down to the mat, tapping the wall in front of you and the wall behind you. Tuck the back toe under, start pivoting, dropping lower to the mat, framing your ears on either side, reaching your fingertips for the ceiling. Drop your hands to the mat and set up a plank line. Chaturanga down, nice and controlled as you flow down. Ease your way into an up dog. And then pike your bum up to the ceiling, setting up your down dog frame. Step, hop, jump to the front of the mat. Landing softly on the balls of your feet. Check that your feet are stacking underneath your hips as you find your modified chair line. Heel toe in as you come back to a narrow mountain and pause here for a beat, just taking a nice couple of deep breaths, filling your lungs to capacity, standing up nice and tall. Feel that root through your feet, that soft, almost zippering up action along the inner thighs, and that beautiful, almost pulling up sensation from your pelvic floor all the way towards your belly button line. We're going to begin playing with a slower sequence on the right side, attempting to hold the poses for just a wee bit longer. Take a big breath in to prepare. We're coming into a narrow chair. If you do have any knee complaints, open up your legs and work with a little bit of a wider frame, maybe with your feet stacking underneath your hips. On an exhale, you're going to bump the weight back, not forward, back into your bum and your heels, and you're going to keep your hands in prayer as you try to drop as low as you can through the bum, feeling the whole chain of the legs working through the calves, the Achilles. You're even going to feel work in the shins, in the knees, the quads, the hamstrings, the glutes. Hold your chair or rotate your chair to the right by taking the left elbow and tucking it to the outside of the right knee, keeping your hands in prayer, palms sandwiched against each other, top elbow looking up to the ceiling, keeping your bum as low to the floor as you can. Parsva Utkatasana, side chair. From here, we're going to keep our hands locked in position as we take a big lunge step back on the left. If you need to, drop your hands to the mat to find your balance first, and then bring your hands back to pray. Keeping that twisted, rotated side angle, you're going to drop as low to the mat as you can through the pelvis, keeping your left elbow tucked on the outside of the right knee. Ease your way from here into a plank line. If you need to push back in child and take a little time out, or use a little vinyasa to flow through. Bend through the elbows, giving me a nice, beautiful chaturanga dandasana, coming down with control, pausing off the floor for a beat, driving the weight forward onto the palms and the bridges of your feet. Don't collapse your frame, so push the mat strongly away. Keep your core braced. Keep the front and the back chain of the legs engaged. Ease your way into a down dog frame and try to connect as much of the whole foot to the floor as you can, taking a mini time out here. If you were in child pose, ease your way back into a down dog frame, piking your bum up to the ceiling, hands more or less shoulder width apart, feet more or less hip width distance apart, belly button tightly pulled in to center. We're going to ease our way from here into a knee up plank. Bring your body line parallel to the floor as you draw your right knee in towards your belly button. Pausing here for a breath. Coming back into a plank line or kicking into an arching dog by floating the right leg back and then sweeping or arcing the foot to the left. You're going to play with that movement 3 times. Thinking knee to nose plank, sweeping the leg back, either coming into a plank or an arching 3-legged dog. Working with control, pausing before sweeping the leg back and pausing. Think knee to nose and hold. Almost rounding out through the spine in a cat-like stretch. We're going to find our way from here into a warrior 2 line. Take a big step to the inside of the right hand, making sure you've got knee over ankle on the lead leg. Drop the back leg to 90 and windmill your frame open. Reaching with your fingertips for the front and the back of the room. Try not to lean all of your body weight forward. Try to center your weight as if it was coming down towards the floor through the pelvic girdle. Keep your gaze steady over your front finger as you hold your warrior 2 frame, Virabhadrasana 2, not allowing the knees to fall in. So pretend that somebody's pushing from the inside, opening up that knee and trying to keep the knee stacking over your front ankle. Hold your leg line steady as you float both sets of hands behind your back, interlacing the hands, making a little fist. Drop the fist down between your bum cheeks and arch slightly through the spine as you find an arching warrior. Slight crescent shape through the back. Think of floating the 2 shoulder blades together and expanding laterally through the chest as much as you can. From here, we're going to ease our way into a warrior 3 line, but we're going to try to keep the hands bound behind the back. Start pivoting slightly, looking to the front of the mat. Launch off the back foot. You can use the back toe for support, finding your balance on the front leg first. Then when you're ready, straighten up the front leg and start floating that left leg up weightlessly, coming into an almost tabletop line, floating that leg up behind you, keeping your hands bound behind you. Hold. Ease your way from here to the mat, trying to come into a lunge line, either both hands on the mat or both hands still bound behind you, or if you can, no hands. Take the right hand, tuck as much of the elbow and the shoulder through and around to bind the hands just in front of the bridge of your foot and hold your lunge line. Try not to lean any weight forward, so keep pushing into the heel of the back foot so that your weight distribution is equal on the front and the back leg. Then unbind. Place your right hand on the inside of the right leg. Release the back knee, release the back foot. We're coming into a narrow lizard line. You're just going to simply open up the front foot to 45. And then take the right palm, place it on the inside of the right knee and gently push the right knee away as you knife edge the front foot. Getting a nice little stretch into the lower belly area and feeling a beautiful opening from the inside of the right knee, wrapping underneath the leg and feeding into the groin area. Modified lizard, Uttanapristhasana. From here, I'd like you to ease your way into a plank line, holding your plank line nice and steady, body as parallel to the mat as you can, not collapsing your frame, strong through the shoulders, holding steady. Look through your hands and check that your feet are stacking hip width distance apart. We're coming into a side plank, and you've got a couple of variants that you can play with. You can either knife edge the feet to the right, stacking one leg on top of the other as you open up, or stack the top leg on top of the bottom leg and hold your frame steady. Try to hold for at least 15 to 20 seconds. You could bring it down onto the elbow of the bottom arm, or even bend the bottom knee and extend the bottom leg, either using your elbow or an extended arm line, depending on how you need to modify. Pick your poison. Hold your side plank steady. Keep lengthening through the top arm, almost trying to run a broomstick from the top arm through to the bottom arm. From here, you're either going to kick it back in child pose, or you're going to find your way into a dolphin frame on the elbows. Ease your way back to your original plank line. Relax the knees. Drop down to the elbows. Elbows stacking underneath your armpits with your hand line soft and in parallel, fingertips looking to the front of the mat. Pike your bum up to the ceiling, and the rest of the pose is down dog. Maybe stepping your feet a quarter foot space forward, holding the frame steady. The crown of your head is not connected to the mat. It's hanging off the mat. You're pushing off the forearms nice and strongly, and you keep piking the bum up to the ceiling. Holding quarter dog, Katurd Svanasana, often referred to as dolphin pose. Either staying here, or if you're feeling like a little challenge, we're going to bring it into a baby crow. Softly walk your feet forward, bending through the knees as much as you need to. You're going to try to find a resting spot for your knees on your triceps, looking off the front of the mat. Your nose is going to be quite close to the mat. You're going to look off the front of the mat, resting your knees on your tricep, floating your feet off the mat to softly tap the two big toes behind you, almost coming into a childlike frame, but balancing on the triceps nice and low to the floor. When you're ready to come out of your baby crow Bakasana, you're going to slide or step the feet back, coming into a puppy pose, extending the arms long and lengthened on the mat in front of you. Thinking of trying to connect your chin and your chest to the floor as you look off the front of the mat. The tops of your thighs are quite close to your lower belly area, and you're piking that bum up as close to the ceiling as you can, almost hanging down between the two shoulder blades. Drag your weight slowly forward, coming into a modified caterpillar to find your way onto the belly. Extend the arms out in front. Legs are soft and relaxed in parallel. We're coming into an extended locust line, trying to give a nice arch through the back. If this is too much for you, you can just give me a Superman line. Pretend that you've got a little marble underneath your nose. Begin rolling the marble away from you. Start peeling up through the ribs. At the same time, float the arms and the legs off the mat, almost hollowing out through your back. Resting on the two hip bones with your bottom ribs still softly connected to the mat. If you find that this hollowed out frame is too much for you, bring your whole body line closer to the floor, looking down towards the mat, but hovering your nose off the floor, giving me more of a Superman line with the head framed between the two arms. Pick your poison and hold your frame. Arms and legs should feel nice and light on the mat. Extended Salambasana, locust. Then softly float back down to the mat. As you reconnect to the mat and think of tucking that marble underneath your nose, bend the elbows and place your palms alongside your bosom. We're coming into an up dog frame, and you can elect to keep the tops of your feet connected to the mat or tuck the toes under if you prefer. Using an extended leg line if you can, and bracing through the core, or bending the knees and using them for support as you push all the way up into a strong up dog. Try not to collapse and hang on the shoulder blades. Push off the mat. Resist the mat. Core is strong, strong, strong and engaged, and you're taking an awesome stretch into the front and the back chain of your legs. Ease your way from here into a down dog. Use the down dog as you would child for a little bit of an extended stretch and a little bit of a timeout, stretching the front and the back chain of the body. You could substitute child pose, maybe coming into a kneeling frame with the big toes together, the knees open nice and wide, extending the arms in front and taking a little push back. So pick your poison, hold your stretch, wherever you decide to play. From here, we're going to ease our way into a crow balance, and you can hop up right onto the triceps if you like, or you can take it a little bit slower, maybe thinking of hopping up just in front of your hand line. And as you hop up, you bring the 2 feet close together along the midline of the body, weight bearing on your toes with the heels touching and the knees looking to the side of the room. Keep your current orientation on the mat, front view. As you hop up, weight on the toes, heels touching with a little gap between the arches of your feet. Knees are softly splayed out to the side of the room. Place your hands on the mat in front of you, more or less shoulder width apart. Bend the elbows, make a little resting spot on your tricep, somewhere between your elbow and your armpit. The exact position for the knee is going to be different person to person. You need to experiment and find the line that works best for you. Squeeze your knees in towards the tricep as if you were squeezing into a Pilates ring. If you're new to crow, don't tuck your head and look towards your feet. Look off the front of the mat, using your chin and your nose as a counterbalance as you lean the weight forward, finding that resting spot, maybe just rocking back and forth at first to find that connection between your inner thighs and your lower abs. And then once you've found it, holding the weight forward, keep looking off the front of the mat. Try to float 1 foot off the mat. If that feels good, hold steady. Wriggle the back foot off the mat till you can find that inner thigh and core connection, and hold both feet floating off the mat. Big toes touching together behind you with the knees resting on your tricep. Hold your crow line steady. Bakasana. From here, we're going to ease our way into a seated frame. If you were in crow, just come back to your start position, maybe floating the hands behind you to the mat. Extend one leg, extend the other, making sure you've got enough room to roll back. So if you're on the tall side, sit yourself up at the front of the mat. Sit up nice and tall. Legs just inside of hip width distance apart, and give me a modified staff pose. Drawing softly up from the kneecaps along your quads and the inner thighs to see if you can float both heels weightlessly off the floor. Push into your feet as if you were resisting the wall in front of you. Sit up beautifully tall with your shoulders stacked over your hips, and reach through your fingertips, opening up the spaces between the fingers and really reaching. Beautiful spinal alignment pose. Give me a long line from your tailbone all the way to your crown. Hold for a few more seconds, and then we'll set up a modified inverted plank, and we'll play up the leg line today. Drop your fingertips to the mat, start relaxing through your feet, float the heels together, and allow a soft little V shape between the toes. Drop your hands to the mat alongside your hips. Fingertips are either looking towards your toes, or if your wrist line is sensitive today, you can give me a fisted line, dropping the fists in so that the wrists look in to the center line. Draw your hands or your fists back, leaning back until your hands are stacking underneath the shoulders. Keep that V shape through the feet, and as you pike your hips up to the ceiling, knife edge your feet, and try to hold a beautiful inverted plank line, piking your hips up towards the ceiling, pushing off your palms or your fisted hands as if you were trying to float your chest up to the ceiling. Hold. trying to hold for anywhere between 10 to 15 seconds, nice and strong through the arms. Maybe dropping onto the elbows and just lifting the feet off the mat if you find that holding that table line is just too much for you. From here, we're going to ease our way into a modified boat line. Start softening through your bum, and as your bum connects to the mat, then butterfly line through the feet, soles of the feet together, knees open. Bring your hands off the mat, reaching through to either hold this soft butterfly line here or to open up the legs into a V shape. Keep reaching through your prayer hands as if you wanted to tap the wall in front of you. If you find that this is too strenuous, you could perhaps come into a tabletop boat, bracing the hands behind your thighs. Try not to round out through the spine. Give me an almost L shape through the spine, lengthening tailbone to crown as you hold your boat line. 5, 4, 3, 2. You're going to give me 1, fall back, holding a hollow frame off the mat, reaching through your fingertips and your toes, trying to tap the wall in front of you. The lower back is imprinted into the mat, the lower rib cage is heavy into the mat, and the weight is off your shoulders. Hold that hollowed out frame, core beautifully braced and engaged. Then softly peel down to the mat. Set up a bridge line by bending the knees, connecting the soles of the feet to the mat, and starting with a neutral spine position, a little space between your lower back and the mat. Keep your feet and your knees hip-width distance apart as you take a big breath in to prepare. On the exhale, tilt your pubic bone to the 12 o'clock position so that your lower back imprints into the mat, and then start disengaging one vertebra at a time, bringing your bum up off the mat, packing up nice and high into a bridge line. Either staying here, just trying to tuck the two shoulder blades as close together as you can, arms long and lengthened on the mat, or give me a little basket brace underneath your waist. By bending the elbows, using the little L shape between your index finger and your thumb, and tucking that little L-shaped brace underneath the waist on both sides. Keeping your chin tucked towards the chest. Support the weight of your waist, maybe creeping your heels in a little bit closer towards your shoulder line, increasing that arch in your spine as you're thinking of floating the two shoulder blades together and expanding laterally through your chest. Wherever you decide to play in bridge, Setu Bandha, make sure that you're keeping your feet and your knees hip-width distance apart and that you keep your chin tucked towards the chest. Do not look to the side of the room. You could inadvertently tweak your neck, which is a no-no. All right, pausing here for a few more breaths. Then we'll use a little spinal roll from here to ease our way into a standing frame. Modify if you need to, maybe rather gently cradle rocking and then pushing off to the side if you prefer. Release the brace from underneath your back, peel down one vertebra at a time. As soon as you connect into neutral spine, brace your hands on your shins or behind the thighs and rock softly up and down with a little rounded frame on your spine, giving me maybe 3 or 4 rocks, and then using your momentum on the last one to push your palms into the mat, push your weight forward into the head, coming into a strong forward fold, trying to keep the forward fold with your palms maybe inverted and connected to the mat, or maybe palms reaching for the backside of your calves, bending softly through the elbows. Try to play with that weight placement in your feet, gently rocking back and forth, and then holding where you find the maximum stretch. Usually it's halfway between the balls and the feet, between the balls and the heels of the feet, but it could be different for you. So just experiment and see what's working for you. Try to really open up the back chain of the legs, keeping the legs as extended as you can, or you could perhaps reach for a block, placing a block on the floor, playing with the dimensions, and finding the stretch assist that you need today. Look towards your feet and check that your feet are stacking in parallel underneath your hips. If they aren't, heel toe in until you're in the correct position. We're going to come into a low, narrow squat, Upavesana. You're going to start bending through the knees, floating your arms out in front of you, and almost resting your chest on the tops of your thighs as you drop as low to the mat as you can. You're so low to the floor and your bum is so heavy that if you didn't have the arms extended out in front of you, wrapping either side of your ears, the weight of your bum would make you fall back onto the mat. If coming low to the mat like this is not for you, maybe open up the feet a little bit wider. Maybe soft plie line and just place the hands on the inside of your knees, sitting back into a soft, almost chair-like frame. Play with it, see what works for you. From Upavesana, you're going to soften through the knees and you're going to ragdoll style peel up, keeping a nice little bend in the knees as you restack. As your body straightens up, heel toe your feet in, connecting your big toes and your ankles and finding your way back into your narrow mountain. We're going to repeat that long sequence on the left. Lengthen through your spine, find your beautiful root through the feet in mountain Tadasana. Take a big breath in and on an exhale, bump the weight back into your bum and your heels as you find your chair, Utkatasana. Holding steady here for a couple of breaths, checking that your knees are not tracking over the toes, pushing the weight back, not forward. Stay or play. Rotating slightly off center to the left to tuck your right elbow on the outside of the left knee. Keeping as much weight as you can into the bums. Legs are going to be quivering and working really, really hard to hold the frame. Stay. Keep your hands locked in position or drop them to the mat as you take a big step back with the right leg. If you feel unbalanced, drop your hands to the mat first, slide your right leg back, find your frame first, and then bring your hands back to prayer. Hold your line. Don't lean all the weight forward. Push back into the back heel. Feel that delicious opening happening through the groin. We're going to find a plank line from here, playing with a little vinyasa, or kicking back in child to take a time out. Easier way into plank. Chaturanga down using knees or no knees. Setting up an up dog, taking a nice little stretch into the lower belly here, and then easing your way into a down dog. If you were in child, ease your way into the down dog frame. We're going to play with a little sequence on the left. You're going to think knee to nose plank on the left, coming back into your plank, or arching and sweeping the leg back, pausing in an almost scorpion line frame before coming back knee to nose plank. Shooting for 3 more repetitions like that. Pausing nice and strong through the core. And then you're going to use your step up on the last one to hold knee to nose, rounding out almost in a cat-like stretch. Step up to the inside of the left hand, drop your back leg to 90, becoming into a warrior 2 frame. Open up the hands, reach for the wall in front of you and behind you. Check that you're not leaning your weight forward. Watch that you're not dropping the back hand. Opening up that front knee beautifully, and then staying with your leg line as you float both hands behind your back. Interlace, make a little fist. Coming into an arching warrior, maybe gently peeking up to the ceiling, stretching that little turkey waddle underneath the chin. And then holding your frame steady or morphing into a little warrior 3 balance, trying to keep the hands behind your back. Rotating, transferring the weight from the back leg to the front leg. Remember, use your back toe if you need to find your balance. Straighten up the front leg. When you're ready, think of a little tabletop line and just softly float the right leg behind you. Hold steady for a couple of beats. From here, when you're ready, you're going to ease your way into a lunge line, and you can either keep the hands interlaced behind your back, tuck the back toe under, or maybe frame the lead leg on both sides, or play with a little bit of a balancing challenge by taking the left arm, tucking as much of the shoulder and the elbow through and around to interlace both hands and rest your softly fisted hands just above your bridge line, but don't lean into the foot, push back into the back heel. Those wrists and fisted hands are just floating softly. You're using your core to hold your body weight. Give me a few more breaths here, then we'll ease our way from here into a narrow lizard line. Drop both of your hands inside of the left leg, release the back knee and foot. Keep your narrow stance on the legs, but open up the front foot to about 45. Whole foot on the floor or knife edge it as you use your left palm to gently push or resist the left knee. Working gently, opening up through the groin. Stay here for a couple of beats. From here, we're going to ease our way into a plank line. Hold the plank steady, and then we'll morph into a side plank. When you're ready, place both hands on the mat, stepping back, readjusting your hands if you need to. Check that your hands are stacking underneath the shoulders and give me a strong plank. Try not to pike up, try not to hang. So body line nice and strong, you're parallel to the mat, you're using your shoulders, you're using your core. Look through your hands, check your feet. They should be more or less hip-width distance apart. You're going to either knife edge to the left or you're going to stack one leg on top of the other as you come into your soft T frame. Modifying the movement if you need to by bending your bottom knee and extending the top leg if you need to. So pick your poison, hold steady, parking your top hip up to the ceiling so you're not collapsing the frame towards the floor. Pretend that you've got a towel that's pulling your waist and your hips up to the ceiling. Ease your way back into your plank line. Drop to the knees. We're setting up a dolphin line. Drop to the forearms. Fingertips looking towards the front of the mat. Tuck your toes under. Pike your bum up to the ceiling. Maybe scooching your feet in just a little bit. And holding your down dog-like frame with your forearms connected to the mat and your crown softly floating off the mat. Hold the frame, keeping your chin nodded softly in. Stay, or maybe elect to come into your baby crow line by creeping your feet in closer, bending through the knees as they come in, tucking your knees in as close towards your body line as you can, finding a resting spot quite high on the tricep and just softly looking off the front of the mat. Your nose is quite close to the mat and you're holding that floating frame. Your feet are off the mat, softly tapped together behind you. Your core is strongly, strongly contracted. Trying to hold for at least 10 to maybe 15 seconds. And then ease your way onto the knees, slide the legs back. Lengthen the arms in front of you. Coming into puppy, thinking of connecting your chin and your chest to the floor as you look off the front of the mat. Awesome, awesome stretch into the shoulders. Top of your thighs pretty close to your lower belly area. Bum piked up nicely to the ceiling. And then drag your body weight forward in a caterpillar-like fashion to find your way softly on the belly. Slide the arms out in front, palms looking down into the mat. You're going to come into a Superman line or a locust line with the arms long and extended. Connect your forehead to the mat. Set up your beginning frame. Take a big breath in to prepare. And then when you're ready, start rolling that imaginary marble away. At the same time, float the arms and the legs off the mat, almost giving me a hollowed out frame and looking between your two hands as if you were reaching for the wall in front of you. Once again, if this line is too much for your back, give me more of a parallel line, framing the head between the two arms and looking down towards the mat. Keep lengthening through your fingertips and your toes wherever you decide to play. A few more breaths here, then we'll ease our way into an up dog and hold the up dog steady. Reconnect softly to the mat, floating whisper softly back down to retuck that marble underneath your nose. Bend the elbows, place the palms alongside your bosom, feet flat or tuck your toes under. Push into the palms, brace your core, trying to come up nice and strongly into an up dog. You could maybe modify your movement and come just into a plank line if you prefer, and hold the plank line steady with your toes tucked under. Hold. Try to get a nice fair amount of stretch into the lower belly, and then pack your bum up to the ceiling. Find your down dog, or ease your way into child pose if you feel that you need to take a little bit of a time out. Work the front and the back chain of your body. Get an awesome, awesome stretch. When you're ready, you're going to hop forward and come straight into a crow. You know where you're going to. Look off the front of the mat, hop forward, weight on your toes, heels softly connected, knees out. Bend through the elbows, find a resting spot on your tricep, hugging the knees in as tight as you can. Find a resting spot on your tricep. Try to float one foot off, then the other. Big toes tap behind you, knees resting on your tricep, or maybe just gently rocking back and forth, keeping both big toes connected to the mat and just trying to find that connection between that zippering up action on your inner thighs and that really, really strong pull up from your pelvic floor. From your crow line, you're going to find your way into a seated frame, staff pose. So maybe coming back to your start position, floating the hands back, extending both legs out in front of you, setting yourself up at the front of the mat. Draw up from the kneecaps along the quads, float your heels off the mat. Reach with your fingertips as if you were trying to tap the wall out in front of you. Think long, long spine. Pretend that you're a marionette. Somebody's got a little piece of string attached to your crown and is gently pulling the crown up to the ceiling. Then soften through the legs. Maybe give them a little shake out if they're quivering. We're going to set up our modified plank. Heels together, toes softly splayed out in a Pilates V. Fingertips looking towards your toes, or maybe fisted line if you prefer. I'll demo the fisted line on this one. Draw your fists or your hands back, lean the weight back in a nice little L shape, not rounding out and collapsing, floating your bosom up to the ceiling as you push the hips up off the floor, knife edging your feet and resting on the knife edge portion of your feet as you hold steady. If you find this is too much, maybe dropping onto your elbows and just floating your feet softly off the mat, chin nodded towards your chest. Or you could keep the feet connected, think modified fish, pushing off your forearms. Pick your poison, hold. From here, we're going to ease our way into our modified boat, Navasana. Start softening through the bum. Reconnect your bum to the mat. As soon as your bum touches the mat, think of floating your legs into a soft butterfly line. Bring your hands off the mat in front of you. Maybe just big toes touching with the space between the heels. If that feels good, open up into a V frame and keep reaching. If this is too much, brace the hands behind your thighs, almost hugging your chest in towards your thighs. Wherever you play, try not to round out the spine. Give me a long line, almost an L shape. Think of the chair in your car and you're just reclining the seat, yeah? Hold. One fall back to a hollow hold, hollowing out your body, almost as if somebody had thrown a beach ball at your belly and you'd gone oof around the ball. So nice, strongly braced core. Reach through your fingertips and your toes. Softly peel down to the mat and set up a bridge line. Bend the knees, connect the soles of the feet to the mat. Arms at your side, long and lengthened. Feet and knees, hip width distance apart. Take a big breath in to prepare. On the exhale, start tilting your pelvis to the 12 o'clock position. Keep your chin tucked towards the chest. Don't look to the side of the room. Peel up one vertebra at a time, articulating up through the spine with care. Once you reach the apex of your bridge, Tuck the two shoulder blades in even tighter, holding your frame steady here, or maybe bending the elbows, using that little L shape between your index finger and your thumb, and tucking that L-shaped waist underneath the waist on both sides, maybe stepping the heels in a little bit closer towards your shoulder line, and holding steady here, resting the weight of your hips in your hands. Belly and hips piked up nice and high to the ceiling, trying to keep your feet and your knees hip width distance apart. Make sure you keep your chin tucked towards your chest so that you're activating that thyroid, kickstarting your metabolism. When you're ready to come out, you're going to use some spinal rolls to propel yourself into a standing position. Let go of the brace. Open up the shoulder blades first and then start peeling down slow and controlled. Don't rush through it. Make sure you articulate down with care, that you round and release your lower back before allowing your bum to touch and then bringing the spine back to neutral. Once you've found neutral, start playing with that little spinal roll. Maybe softly connecting your feet to the mat as you come up, or perhaps electing to float your feet off the mat if your core control is stronger. When you're ready for your little propel, you're going to use flat hands on the mat to push your weight forward. Make the crown heavy, almost trying to bob your head to the floor, and hold a soft forward fold. Maybe hands inverted and connected to the mat, or maybe back, or maybe using your palms to hold the back of your calves. And then playing with that weight placement, with the weight distribution in your feet, to find the maximum stretch that works for you, which is usually with the weight distribution equal on the balls and the heels. Hold steady. Remember, your head is inverted now. So when you do come up, you need to bring up the head slowly so that you give your blood pressure a chance to stabilize. We're coming into that low squat line from here, Upavesana. Look down towards your feet. Make sure that your feet are stacking in parallel underneath your hips. Soften through the knees. Drop the weight back, not forward, into your bum and your heels, almost resting your chest on the tops of your thighs as you reach the hands in front, almost framing your ears on either side, maybe keeping your gaze softly down on the floor. Try to keep your toes planted into the mat. The 10 toes are going to want to peel up off the mat. Play with your balance. Then soften through the hands. Place your hands gently on the mat, heel toeing your feet in as you ragdoll style peel up, keeping a nice soft bend in the knees. Find a narrow mountain. Think of stacking your shoulders over your hips over your knees, and your knees over your ankles. Give me the longest spine that you can, arms at your sides, palms looking in the same orientation, and almost take a gentle back bend here. Before lengthening your spine as you float your hands into prayer, restacking, realigning your body. Close your eyes, take your focus in. I want you to feel tingly, feel alive, feel as if anything is possible today. With that thought, namaste to you all. Thank you so much for coming out and playing with me today. I really hope that you enjoyed today's class. Give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Shoot me your comments. And remember to subscribe and to share with your friends. Remember, if you're subscribed to the channel, you do receive the free classes that I post weekly, even if you're not joining us daily as a paid subscriber. Namaste. See you all for Pilates conditioning tomorrow.